Hello art stars! So today we carry on with our theme of landscapes. I hope you all enjoyed last week's Imagined Landscapes. I saw some beautiful responses to that lesson. And today we've got an artist of inspiration, and his name is William Turner. And if you haven't heard of him before, please go and see some of his work. As always, I've put in some pictures of inspiration. I think he's one of Britain's most famous landscape artists, and he worked a lot with watercolors. So we're going to be using our watercolors today to do our Turner inspired landscape. And one of his most famous themes is seascapes, and using these really dramatic sea scenarios with really sort of rich yellow light. So that's what we're going to focus on today. But like all our lessons, if there's a particular piece that really inspires you or you want to take it somewhere, please feel free to do your own thing, make your own stamp on it. So let's start. I've got my colors prepared here. So as you can see, because of the colors that Turner used, I'm keeping these blues and blacks for my ocean and these yellows and browns and reds for my sky. I've got a couple of thicknesses of brushes. I almost wish I had something thicker than this, but we're working with limited supplies. I think you'll notice I'm missing a little art palette, so I used an ice cube tray instead, which works really well for watercolors if you're ever stuck. And then my mum lent me some of her watercolors, which are probably about 15 years old. So if my paint is a little botchy, I'm sorry, they are very old paints. So let's get started. And if I'm not going to use a pencil today, I'm going to go straight in and just work with a color. But if you feel unsure and like a pencil guideline would help you, then please go ahead, grab a pencil and draw some of your outlines. So we're gonna do about half and half ocean, half sky. So I'm gonna start with my sky, and I'm gonna start with my yellow color, and I'm gonna start at the top and sort of at the sides and work my way in. Ooh, and I can already see my brush was still a bit dirty from mixing in the colors, so there's a bit of red there. I'm gonna use a bit of water to work this down. And you can always tilt your paper to help you when you're using watercolors. And really broad strokes, and we want to bring this almost to nothing. So if you're getting your paper a bit wet, if we remember some of our experimenting with watercolors, and then apply some of the color, this is a great instance to use that technique. And just, a bit haphazardly, let's do a bit more water to get this line down here. And when you're doing a water line, the ocean is always, the horizon line is always really straight. So it's sometimes helpful if you can draw that line first, and it'll give you an idea of where your sky begins and where your water ends. And there we go, get that nice and saturated with the water. This paper seems to dry a bit quick. It's absorbing a lot of the water, so we're gonna come from the sides and then try and leave the center a bit whitish. Oh, great. And I'm sorry if it's a little bit noisier than usual where I am today. There's a lot of traffic and people and things happening. So, very simple. As you can see, it's a bit faint as a color because we want our Turner to be very, very delicate. We're going to slowly work on this. So now I'm going to bring in some of my greens and blues into the bottom. And let me get my reference back up. Lovely. And I think one of my favorite things about his paintings is just that warmth of the light. Really, all the colors that he uses are so warm. So I'm going to try and use my blues and my greens very little, and actually bring in a bit of yellow into this side as well. And you know, William Turner's kind of an amazing story because he was spotted when he was really young. He had his first exhibition at the age of 15. So really he was so talented and produced so many paintings. He had a really, really productive life as an artist. And I think because he started young is partly the reason why, because he had a lot of time to sort of produce and experiment with his style. And some say that, you know, he's one of the most important landscape artists. So really do go and have a look at him if you get a chance. So you can see I'm really softening my lines. I want everything to be really, really wispy. I don't know if you can appreciate the difference in colors there. So now that I've got a guideline for my sky and my ocean, I'm gonna come in and put in a little rowboat, I think. And I might use my thin brush for this. Bring in the little tiny guy. I think someone took a scissor to this little brush and you can see it's got like a wonky tip. So we'll see how he behaves. And I think what I'm gonna do is start with my brown and then bring in some black. So get this nice brown color. And we're gonna do a little oh yeah, this is not a very good brush, but we'll do our best here. And we're gonna do like a slight shadow of somebody here rowing. It doesn't have to be very defined. It's just to give an idea that there's a little boat there. And I might do the very beginning of another boat here. We just see the beginning of the pro. And because this is kind of like a sunset-y type of dramatic light, these are going to become quite dark. So let's go in with our black now. And again, if you don't want it to spread the way mine is spreading, if you don't want it to have this effect, just be a little bit more patient and wait for it to dry before you start layering on your colors. And it should be a much cleaner application. I, in this case, don't mind because I think it lends itself a little bit to Turner. And the way his colors just meld into each other. But if you wanted to do something more defined, you know what to do. So let's bring in our big brush again, and I'm gonna come in with a bit of red. And I think it's gonna maybe come slightly here. We're gonna make it dramatic, and we're gonna make it kind of come into the water as well with the reflection. So always when we have water, it's important to have the counterpart of that reflection coming back. So I'll show you, we're gonna do in deep blue as well. I'm gonna come back to my small brush. The reflection of the boats. And this is quite a strong blue. And it doesn't have to be exact, you know? Just a sense that that's there. And it's a bit tricky sometimes getting the hang of these shades. But it's almost as if you were folding the page in half. Exactly the line where the object ends. That's a great way of imagining where your reflection line is. And so you're going to mirror everything that you see up here, down here. And this maybe needs a bit of water to get a bit more personality. There we go, slowly melding into our ocean. I think I'm gonna put in some more yellow to this. And I might even start introducing some more yellow into the bottom of this, because really that's what gives it his style of rich, warm light. And you can see now I'm starting to do a bit more shape, just to get these idea of clouds kind of hanging around. And if the colors start mixing a bit, that's okay too. Let me get you nice and close there so you can see. Just really wispy movements, and that gets you that kind of depth that slowly starts forming. So now we're going to try and imitate this sky here on the ocean. And oh, maybe this is a bit too much yellow, but we can always come in with more green and layer it that way. And if you're struggling to do this mirrored down, you can always turn your paper around. And that way you're still doing the same upward and downward movement that you were doing before. But I think it's a nice challenge to leave it the way it is and try and imitate some of your movements. I'm going to grab a bit of water and get this sort of milled it in a bit. Okay, this is starting to look more like it. I'm going to come back in with my green and deepen that color a bit. And you can start changing textures at this point and make one a little bit drier brush and start getting sort of more of those lines running across rather than the wispiness of the really watered down line. Let's see, I might try a little bit of brown at the bottom of my ocean. See if I can make that even a little bit darker. Get it nice and dramatic. So I'm looking at about 2 or 3 Turner paintings rather than a particular one for my inspiration. But you of course are free to do as inspiration hits you. You can copy me, you can copy Turner, you can do your own thing. And then I think on top of the brown, I'm going to come in a bit with my dark blue here, just at the very corner, and see what happens if we mix this in. It's quite nice. I might do a bit of splashing. And this one was quite strong. Let's see if we can dilute it a little bit. We can always grab a bit more water. Just don't want it to overtake too much. You can also do little bits in the middle that are slightly darker. And I might do just like a really thin line here. One here where the boat is. Come in and fix this a little bit. Now I'm going to come in with a bit of white. Start accenting a little bit of the highlights. I don't use that much white with watercolors. I like to try and leave the space where white is. But it sometimes helps just to finish accenting those little pieces where you want a bit more white and a bit more movement. Just make sure you've got a really clean brush when you're using white, because I can see a tiny bit of blue in mine. And it will change things. And of course, always keep some something to wipe your brush with. That helps to clean it a lot. And you just keep layering the color on top of each other until you're happy with the way they're mixing. And the white, I'm going to try and do a bit of where the boats would be splashing. And it might not come through, but it might. Always worth adding those details, even if just for yourself. We maybe add a bit of waters coming through here. And a bit of the cloud reflection. But you can see it's really, really faint, the white. It makes a really subtle effect, and if you've got dark colors, it will often sort of just matte that color down, but it will still come through, because, you know, that's why we love watercolors, is because they've got that transparency, and colors can sort of layer on top of each other and interact with each other. Oh, this is looking lovely. I think I'm only going to retouch this line here, where I feel like it's quite harsh and not really as melded as I'd like. And I think I'm going to fix that with a bit more green. And finally, we're going to come in and accent our red again. I think that's nice and dry now. And I'm going to start from the center. It's a bit diluted, this red. I think I'd like it to be a bit punchier. But we're just going to layer it really slowly, because I like how it's sort of mixed into the other colors. And I think I'm going to add a bit of red to this guy as well. Lovely. Let's give it one more pass here. And there you go. Feel free to get as dramatic or as layered as you like with this, but so I don't get you guys bored, this is my Turner inspired seascape with really warm yellow light. I cannot wait to see what you guys do, and let's speak on Zoom. Bye bye, art stars.